This episode of Small Business Leaders Podcast is brought to you by Adams Lane Photography.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Small Business Leaders Podcast, coming to you from the Legacy Podcast Studio in Kernersville, North Carolina. My name's Lamar Powell. This is my amazing co-host, Audra Adams.
I always love to see what kind of adjective you're going to put before
My brain
that.
is mush today,
No,
so
but
you're amazing.
You're amazing, too. Hi, and welcome. As Lamar said, my name is Audra Adams, and today we have the distinct honor of having Mayor Alan Joines. He's the mayor of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, here with us in the studio, and we have so much to get into, so let's go. Welcome, Mayor Alan Joines, to the Small Business Leaders Podcast. We are very honored that you would take your time to come and sit with us to talk to our viewers and our listeners.
And congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm happy to be here because small business development is one of my priorities and passions, because that's really the heart and soul of our economic community.
It really is. And we've said that multiple times on this podcast, but the percentage of the revenue that is created by a small business is just, I mean, it's outrageous. So we have to have we have to have that support. And some of that support definitely comes from, has to be in our government and how easy they make it.
That's the key to it right there. That's one of the things we said, is that we want Winston-Salem to be the easiest place to start and grow a business in the state, and to create this strong, viable entrepreneurship ecosystem here. And I think we're pretty much there. Matter of fact, last 2 years ago, we tied for Austin, Texas, for having the highest percentage growth of new business startups in the country.
That's huge.
Fortunately, Charlotte was tied for it too, but I don't talk about them. I just say Austin. Yeah. Austin slogan is "Keep Austin Weird." And so they do a good job of doing that, and they got so much character to it. So I've had some folks say to me, Mayor, Winston needs to be a little bit more weirder.
Well, I think that's right.
Have you met Audra?
Yeah.
Oh, did you do that? That is absolutely correct. Let's start with how we met, first of all. And then I want to go back to how you got here.
Okay.
Not to this table, but to the mayorship.
Sure.
Is that a word?
Mayorship.
Well, it is now.
I think it sounds great.
I like it.
If it's not, I mean, maybe like it can be in Star Wars or something, like they use that. I'm not sure. Okay, so long time ago.
Galaxy far, far away.
Galaxy far, far away. We went to the same ballroom dance studio.
We did, out in Clemens. Yeah,
yes.
Sure did.
And the way that ballroom dance studio worked is anybody could come in and they would be sitting beside each other down a wall, and the instructors or other students would come by and they would ask you to dance, and they would go over with you what you learned in the lesson that you had.
Made it plan.
Yeah, and it was really fun. It was called a practice party, and I was really new, like really, really, really new. My phone was going off, even though I was on Do Not Disturb. And so one night I just sat down because I'm me, and you sat down beside me, or one or the other, something like that. And so I just, making light conversation. I'm like, so what do you do? Well, normally if you're in Winston, you know who he is. Nobody warned me. Nobody said anything, which it wouldn't have made a difference at all.
No.
But I just said, so what do you do? And he goes, say what you said.
I don't remember, but I probably said, well, I'd try to be the mayor or something like that.
Yes, you did. You're like, I'm the mayor. I was like, of where?
Of what?
And he said Winston-Salem. Right. And then I looked at him and was like, what does a mayor do all day? Like, do you just cut ribbons? Like, I don't, do you remember this? And everybody, I was being genuine.
Yeah, you just wanted to know.
Yeah, I didn't know how it worked. and I'm still now learning more and more about the position that you hold, and I have a little more respect towards it, a lot more respect.
Thank you.
But in that case, I think that kind of began our friendship.
It did, yeah, sure did.
Because I wasn't coming and having small talk with you because you're the mayor.
Yeah.
And I think I immediately told
genuine.
you.
Yeah,
Right.
genuine.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I'm thinking.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
immediately told you I couldn't vote for you, so that was not
I
going
got up and left then.
Well, I lived in a different county.
Right.
And
right.
so I was like, I can't vote for you. So if you're being nice to me for a vote,
Don't just forget it.
let's just not do that. But it developed over years. We went to that studio, and
A lot of fun.
oh my goodness,
It's
so
good. It's so much stress relief when you go in there. Everybody's having a good time talking, and I've got 2 left feet, so I knew I wasn't going to make a Fred Astaire, but it was just fun to do that there. And so,
it was. And the friendships that I've formed there, I know I still have many of them today. But I think the arts in general gave me something, and ballroom dance gave me something in particular that I never had before. It was I'm a recovering perfectionist, I would say, because as you know, in ballroom dance, you really just cannot be perfect. You're going to mess
you
up.
mess up, you got to figure out a way to cover it and just keep on going. And
Yeah.
so,
And it gave me that, but it also gave us a friendship that has lasted. Now
I don't know how long it's been.
I do.
Yeah.
It's like 15 years.
How much?
15.
15 years.
15
Wow. I
years.
started to
Wow.
say 10, but time just zips by.
Yeah.
yeah.
14, 15 years at this point. So even though we don't see each other much, there's a check-in and like, how are you? Sometimes we get to catch up really fast.
Right. And it seems like when we do get together, it's the time warp between last time I seen you is not even there.
It's
just like you
not.
start from, like I saw you last week or something.
Yeah. So
And
thank
generally
you.
you chastise me for not doing this or that and not doing enough of this or that. So it's good.
Well, I think it's good. Genuine friendships ought to be
We
that
do.
way.
Yeah, and I
it ought
appreciate
to,
it. I
and
really
that's
appreciate
that's
it.
great. Yeah,
Well,
I think it's cool.
I as my friend, I count it an honor to be your friend, and you
thank
have
you.
really been my friend, and so I thank you for that.
Sure.
And so now I want to go into how in the world, where did everything start? Where were you born? Where were you raised? Let's talk about that for a
Well, I
minute.
was born on a dead end dirt road in Wilkes County, and the first person in my family to go to college. And we were poor, I'm pretty sure, but I didn't really know it.
You didn't know it.
And we had plenty to eat, and mom and dad raised everything in the garden, and my dad was a builder, and so I love smelling sawdust today, because I used to go to work with him, and I learned enough to be dangerous in building
Now
things.
you woodwork a lot.
I do woodworking. I got a shop at my house, and it's fun. And actually, what kind of turned me around in terms of thinking about more to life, I was picked to represent Wilkes County in a national Boy Scout training program up in Mendham, New Jersey, of all places. And so we're talking about a bumpkin. They brought me down to Winston-Salem, put me on a bus at like 6 o'clock in the evening, rode all night, and woke up the next morning in Newark, New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
I said, oh, Lord. And not in Kansas anymore.
No.
Then I had to go figure out a way to get on a cab or a taxi across town and pick up a railroad up to Mendham, New Jersey there. And I was like,
How old were you?
well, I was probably 13 or 14, something like
That's
that.
a lot to navigate.
It was, for someone who had never been out of really the state of North Carolina very much. And so, long story short, my bunkmate or tent mate was a guy named Jim Heidel, who lived in the Queens, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd lay there at night, trying to, before we went to sleep, he'd talk about doing this, doing that. And he said, what do you do? And I said, I'm just riding my bike mostly. So, but it got me thinking that there's more to life than there is in Wilkes County. So it wasn't right away, but I kind of was thinking about it. So I went to Mom one day and I said, Mom, I think I really want to go to college. And she said, well, okay, we'll try to figure it out, So I went to see this lady who was my kind of not my guidance counselor, but I had taken classes for her at high school. Her name was Valera Bell Foster. Great big lady. She's dead, so she can't hear this. So I remember I told her, Miss Foster, I really think I want to go to college or go to school, and I think I want to be a teacher. And so she had little granny glasses on. She peered at me, looking over there. She said, "You need to learn to talk more," because I'm pretty much a bashful, quiet kind of person. And so that's always resonated with me today, even as I start finding myself backing up against the wall at a function of some sort. Need to learn to talk more. But anyway, I ended up going to Appalachian, got a degree in political science, and I was on my way to becoming a minored in history, becoming a high school history teacher.
Really?
Yeah, but I guess it's my junior year. We got a new chairman of the department, a guy named Frank Rich, and he was coming up from the University of Georgia, and he's teaching classes in public administration. So I took a couple, and I really kind of liked it. So I was talking to him one day. He said, "What are you going to do after you graduate?" And I said, "Well, I guess I'm going to be a teacher." He said, "Have you thought about getting a master's degree in public administration?" I said, "Well, I hadn't." He said, "Well, Georgia's got a great program, and I've got some connections there." So he hooked me up down there, and I went down, interviewed, and got accepted, and I got a fellowship, which was important at the time because I was married with a kid, and I needed the money as well.
Yeah.
So went to Athens, Georgia, and got a master's degree in public administration, and I really wanted to come back to this area and particularly work in Winston because the city manager at that time was a guy named John Gold, and he was kind of known as the dean of city management around the country. And so I just kept coming up. Every time there was a break, I'd come up and hang out, you know. And finally, he said, well, he bugged us so much, we finally just hired him. And so I got a job working in the budget office as a budget analyst. And it was great because I think that's the key to, obviously, city government or anything is knowing how the money's come in and where they go and so on. And so I worked there, and then
For how long?
As a budget analyst.
Yeah, as the budget analyst.
Probably a couple, 3 years or something like that.
So you really, you really were in it for a long time and was there long enough to really see.
Yeah, you can see how it played out. And then I got other opportunities to do this or that within the city and ended up being deputy city manager. And I had fire and police and housing, everything reporting to me. So that was a great experience. And, I thought I'd be there maybe 2 or 3 years and then move on to another city as a city manager. But next thing I know, 20 years, 25 years slipped away. And so I remember I was at a holiday party, and a guy named Bud Baker, who most everybody knows him, was president of Wachovia Bank at that time. I saw him, and he and I had gone through leadership Winston-Salem together. He said, "Alan, could you come see me after the first of the year?" Well, I said, "Yeah, of course." Bud Baker's just like, been called, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So I went in, and he described to me, said the fact that we've had the community leadership, corporate leadership, have been working on this project for about 14 months. We've studied the economy up and down and the city up and down, used a national consulting group called the McKinsey Group. And so we got this plan here. It says basically Winston-Salem's on a downward spiral unless the private sector gets engaged. There's no way to really kind of stop it. And he said, "We got this plan. We don't know what to do with it." I said, "Would you like to take it and try to run with it and make it happen?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun." So I said, okay. And so I retired from the city on a Friday, and on Monday I started called the Winston-Salem Alliance after we came up with a name. And I never will forget my first meeting of the board. It was on the 27th floor of the Wachovia building, and had a long conference table. I guess probably 30 people sitting around it, and I looked at them. It was the president of Wachovia, BB&T, of R.J. Reynolds, of Sarah Lee, and Wake Forest, and all the schools there. So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm sitting at the end, I'm thinking, these people know BS when they hear it. So anyway, we took it and ran with it, and this was in September. And then I guess in February, March, we had a group, sort of an executive committee sitting around talking, and he said, "You've got to get somebody to run for mayor," because it was an election that year. And said, "The current mayor is bad. He alienated the black community, he's alienated the business community, alienated about everybody." He said, "Can I get somebody to run?" And so they looking around, all of a sudden everybody was pointing at me. He said, how about you? He said, "Yeah, you studied public administration, you know the city." I said, "Guys, I've never run for anything in my life. Never even run for my Sunday school class president or anything like that. I said, but over the years I complained, why can't we get people to run for office who maybe have a genuine concern about the city rather than their own self-aggrandizement? I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll do it one term if I'm elected. No, that was 7 terms ago. But anyway, it was hard for me to do because I am bashful. It's hard to jump out there and knock on doors, shake hands and stuff. But it worked out. We got 78% of the vote in the first run against an incumbent, which is pretty good.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't realize how amazing
That's
it was.
amazing.
Well, it is amazing because getting prepared for this, I went back and looked at, pulled some statistics up because I wanted to see how long you've been in office.
Yeah.
It's amazing now that you just started your 7th term, right?
It will be start 7th. And
you're getting ready to start your 7th term. That has to be some kind of record. I know it has to be a record for Winston.
It is for Winston,
because nobody's done that from what I could tell going back. And then I looked at the voting, the amount of votes through all of this time, and that's impressive. And then this last go around,
You skunked him. I mean,
well, there was nobody.
You
ran without
without
opposition, right?
in the primary. In the general election.
In the general election, so that's huge too. So,
But still, in that, so many people across party lines vote for you.
Yeah, I do try to appeal as more bipartisan kind of a feel to it, and I tell people I run as a Democrat, but I have more Republican money than I do.
Well, it's important, isn't it, for a mayor to do that?
I think so.
For all the people within your community to be able to meet all those needs and relate to all of them, I think is so
well,
important.
to feel heard and not
Yes.
just blocked out because that's not my party,
Right.
And what happened since 2001 is absolutely amazing. So, Lamar, you just have lived here a year, which I'm so happy about that. I don't mean to say you've just been here a year, but 20 years ago, downtown didn't look anything like it looks now.
So, and I didn't see that physically, but I've been here just over a year now. One of the things I did hear, because I talk to people and I ask different people that maybe have different jobs, what do you like about this area? And with Winston-Salem, I heard it several times that they loved that city and what the changes that they saw in the city and the mayor, that it was brought up. I didn't know it. Well, I'm excited now because I found out she knew you. So I was like, oh man, I feel a little important.
Yeah.
But I heard that.
You are.
I heard that several times.
Yeah,
that,
it's pretty amazing.
That positive influence. And then you see it. I love Winston-Salem. I love the Triad. I love Winston-Salem. And I think it's really neat.
Well, the revitalization, so, it doesn't just happen. I can remember times, and this, I think, well, let me ask you this. Do you think that going back to your city planning days and all of those things, they prepared you very much for the position that you ultimately have been in as mayor? And that plan that said it's going to spiral if somebody doesn't fix it.
Yes.
Because you have been in all of those situations, do you feel like that's what got, in your head to say, no, let's pull together in this way or that way to start building? Because answer the question, then I'll ask another one.
Okay. You're doing a good job. Just keep.
Well, I know, but
no, but you're right. I think it did give me a real basis for understanding finances of the city, understanding the different communities in the city, because I'd done a lot of work in the African American community, particularly with housing development. I was charged of economic development for the city, and I knew how to put together deals and get the business community behind it and structure them so that I could say to you as a taxpayer, we're going to get a great return on investment by investing in this community. And then I was bipartisan, didn't impact on it because I always said, there's not a Republican way to fix potholes or a Democratic way to pick up the trash and so on. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, and I can remember there were certain times, that different, though I would hear about different things one way or the other throughout the years. Hey, this is coming. Like I remember before Bailey Park was Bailey Park, and having those conversations and knowing, oh, this is happening, or 40's got to go this way, or, you know, just the mindset of everything that has to, all the moving parts that have to come together for people to park. I mean, for all of those things, people don't realize you have a hand in that.
A little bit sometimes, but yeah, it's pretty amazing in the way it all came together. We used to jokingly say that you could shoot a cannon down 4th Street at 5 o'clock and not hit anybody. And of course, it's different.
It's so
Yeah, it's
different
different.
now.
It's very
Yeah,
different.
real
And it's
bit.
beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
And safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels safe.
Yeah, you can knock on the wood. It's not. This is the only time we can knock on the wood.
Knock
But
on wood. Yeah, that's true. It's pretty amazing. And for those of you, of course, you weren't here, but where Innovation Quarter is today was pretty desperate looking area with abandoned tobacco warehouses and things. And I remember I went with Dick Dean, who is the head of Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center at the time. We had this idea about creating a research park. So Dick and I went to see Andy Schindler, who is the chairman, CEO of R.J. Reynolds Tobacco, and we went to ask for if he would donate one building to us. And so we went there and sat down. We were going through it, and Andy was a no-nonsense kind of guy. He said, "You want them all?" And we said, "Whoa. Yeah, I guess so." So we were like the dog chasing the car. We had caught or maybe in this case, a bus. And so, you know, what do we do with it? But, I mean, Andy was a great proponent and supporter of us, and he was actually became chairman of my board the next year. And that's when we came up with the idea of the Millennium Fund, because he said, you know, we got to have some money to close deals, make things happen. So he said, I don't know if we can raise 100,000 or $1 million or whatever, but anyway, we ended up raising $44 million.
what?
Wow.
$44 million.
Okay, explain to a non-educated person about how you go about doing that.
A lot of it's luck. I say that because you remember Wachovia and First Union had announced a merger.
Okay, I do remember that.
There's a lot of tough feelings around the community. So we went down to Charlotte and met with the joint head of Wachovia and First Union and said, you know, kind of poor mouthed ourselves, it's bad up there, Winston, you got to help us. So anyway, they gave us $10 million. So we kind of shamed them a little bit there. But then you use that to go to the next one, and Reynolds, they kicked in, I forgot how much, $5 or $6 million. And then we went to all the foundations here in the city and got the largest, everyone gave their largest contribution ever given, and then some individuals. And so it just slowly mounted up. But
So you truly, like meeting after meeting, truly went and got the funds to do what we see today.
yeah,
Like
exactly. It was the
person by person networking, if
person
you
by
will.
person thing. Yeah, it was good.
And that's not really that much different than, you know, how small businesses grow.
That's right. Yeah, get your capital lined up and.
You have to go and say, hey, this is, you know, to network with people, which is what we are doing and encouraging our viewers and listeners to do as well.
Right.
Is to go meet people, go expand your territory,
Right.
because you know you never know who you want it on your team, or you want to know. And I feel like there has to be genuineness about that
They
too.
do. That's right.
I don't think that it needs to be manipulative. Like if you just dislike people and you're just going because you want, some kind of connection that's going to make you more, money or something like that. I mean, that's just not who I am. I think that they're wonderful people, and they have wonderful ideas. And if you'll just be quiet long enough, it'll happen naturally.
Yeah, you got to believe in it, and that's what made raising that money from Millennium Fund somewhat easier, because I truly believed that we had to have these dollars to make this plan work. And so when you make, as you said, Audra, if you make that pitch based on we've got to have this because this, and this, in the same way the small business, hey, Mr. Banker or Mr. Investor, this is going to be the way I'm going to make this happen, and I believe in it. I've thought about it hard, maybe for years, and I've finally got a business plan that makes sense. And let me show you, and I can guarantee you it'll be successful. And that's the way you do it. So,
Yeah, so it takes money to do it,
Yep.
obviously. It takes a plan
yes.
to do it, and you expressed that, and it needs to be a good plan, and you need to have people in leadership involved in that so they can have their eyes on that and see that plan. And then you have to have people with a heart that we don't want our city to decline. We want it to improve
Yeah.
and be impressive and thrive. And it is great to be able to watch. And it takes business people and people with those funds to be able to come together and make all of that happen. And we're
right.
seeing that here in Kernersville as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
We're,
Kernersville's
we're
hot.
seeing that,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's really
growing.
cool, especially down in this part. And for Winston's the same thing. It's been great to
So
see.
do you, as mayors, and I think I know the answer to this somewhat, but I want to ask it for everyone. I mean, as mayors of neighboring counties in North Carolina, all over the country, do you communicate? Do you, because one little line that goes from Forsyth County
Yeah.
to Guilford doesn't, I mean, it's still people, transversing that. They may work in Winston, they may work in Greensboro, they may work in
Yeah.
Kernersville. So is there any kind of connectivity?
There is. I mean, certainly in North Carolina, particularly, we have a group called the Metro Mayors Association,
Okay.
which is made up of I guess there's 30-some cities now. They're the larger cities in the country, in the state. And particularly during the COVID epidemic, we had a conference call every Friday morning, and the governor would join us a lot of times, or Mandy Cohen, and describe what's going on, and we commiserate a lot of times. But what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? So, and it's very helpful, obviously, to get good thoughts about it. But also, kind of get back to your point, Audrey, we have good cooperation and collaboration in the triad here with Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, Kernersville, and the others. And at one time, there was kind of a competition. We were competing for companies. And I remember it kind of reached a boiling point when we were recruiting Dell computers here.
Okay.
You remember that?
Yeah,
And,
I actually do.
And Greensboro was as well. And two competing sites. I never will forget, we were in the midst of, we put together a heck of a incentive package, millions of dollars. And we were trying to figure out if we should add more to it because we didn't know what Greensboro was doing. I got a call from Keith Holliday, who was the mayor of Greensboro at that time, and he said, could we bring a little group and let's sit around the table and talk about this? So they came over, and Keith said, we were kind of cutting each other's throat. And he said, we were trying to outbid ourselves, and all of a sudden we're going to have so much money on this thing that the return on investment's not going to be there. So he said, we're going to tell you what we're going to do. He laid out what their proposal was. And so as a result of that, we were able to back out about $3 million that we were getting ready to put into the deal.
Oh, cool.
And so that kind of started it. And I forever told Keith that was really an amazing thing that you all did, took the leadership in making that happen. And so we ended up getting Dell, of course. But we've learned over the years that it's not been that many other big projects we competed with Greensboro against, but we always share. And we have sort of a gentleman's agreement or a gentle lady's agreement because Mayor of Greensboro now is a lady, of course.
And Kernersville.
And Colonel, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. If it's a company that's looking to relocate from Greensboro and they're looking at us, we won't do anything to foster that until I talk to the mayor of there and say, look, Keith or Nancy, we've been approached by this company XYZ who are interested in coming over here, but do you think you all have a play to keep them? Because a lot of times they're trying to expand and they need a building right away or something like that, and so we might have a building available. And so if they say, no, we don't have a play in it, go for it. Then we can do it.
Wow.
So it's good cooperation.
That makes me feel really, really, I don't know. That makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something
that-
special about the triad and all of this because I'm amazed at how much business is going on, how much building is going on, the cooperation, and it is great. And I think a lot of people can learn from all of this.
Well, and you've used this a lot in this conversation, ROI, return on investment. You have to figure out what makes sense.
Yes.
You obviously have to have the passion to move forward, but there's sometimes you've got to believe it so much that you go out on a limb.
Yeah.
And
Small business is about taking risks.
yes, and which makes them, to me, the most courageous
Mm-hmm.
people is to say, hey, I'm going to do this and I don't have a safety net under myself. But it's not different. Small business is really the same as any type of business. What we're talking about right now, even in city plan, it's you're running a business for the people.
All right. For your customers, or
Yeah.
clients. Or
Right.
Yeah.
And the people just happen to vote whether they want you to keep doing that or not.
That's right. Just
mean, am I on track on that?
You're definitely on track. There's so much similarities there that taking risk, hopefully in city government we don't try to take too often many risks, but we do. I mean, it's like putting your money into that Dell project was big. And I got so much criticism when, as you know, Dell was here for about 4 years, and then they pulled up shop and moved because they were building desktops at that facility. And we all know that laptops took over just real quickly. But there was some really good, I call it lawyering, into putting the deal together. So when they announced that they were leaving, we had what's called a clawback provision in our deal. They had to pay back every penny that we had put into the deal, $26 million total, from the city, the county, the private sector. And I never will forget, there's a guy named Kip something that was with Dale called me to tell me that they were closing down.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, gosh, I really hate to hear that, Dale, Kip. I said, you do owe us some money. He said, I know, Mayor. I said, when do you want it? I said, how about tomorrow? They wired the money the next morning because what I wanted to do, because the announcement was coming out the next day, and I wanted to be able to stand up to the voters and say, we got our money back here.
Right.
And they did. So.
And you also, I don't know the correct political terms, so I know you care so deeply about North Carolina as a whole. It's not just Winston-Salem that you've gone to look at. I know that, there's some parts of things that you've gone around the state, learning from, and then also petitioning, to, hey, let's lower the tax code. Why don't we do this so that we, tinker with this, tinker with that, so we can get other businesses and it look inviting, and and that's worked. Whether that's been, hey, let's put a boutique restaurant here, or hey, I just remember some of those things that I was quiet on, but I was listening, and it made so much sense about how much work and how much vision you and your team have to have, because a lot of things that we're talking about are years in the making. They don't just happen the next week and let's have a business meeting. And then, you have to court some of these businesses, for lack of a better word.
Exactly. That's a good word for it, courting. And, I have this, matter of fact, I was with Nancy Vaughn, the mayor of Greensboro, a couple of weeks ago, and she said, Alan, I know you got this saying that you say all the time that Winston-Salem is a 20-year overnight success. And she said, I've started saying Greensboro is a 25-year overnight success. So it's having the vision and then being willing to stick to it. Right. And of course, you have to change a little bit along the way as you get more information or whatever, but keep your eye on the prize out there.
Well, I think you really have. So as someone who now lives in Forsyth County, the only thing I'm going to gripe about, and I'm going to gripe about it because I'm one of your constituents now, the city taxes and the Forsyth County taxes are kicking our butts, man. Yes. I don't know how to do anything about that, but I figure if there's anybody to tell about it, and it would be you, right?
That's right. Let me give you a little perspective.
Okay.
If you look at all the major cities in North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, us,
Charlotte. You have to mention Charlotte.
Yeah, that's right. Charlotte, Asheville, Wilmington. If you take our taxes and the fees that we charge for the various things, we're still the lowest of all the major cities in North Carolina. And it looks a little funky sometimes because if you look at our tax rate, it might be a little higher than for instance, Raleigh. But in Raleigh, you have to pay a separate fee to get your trash picked up, or fees like that.
Right.
So they had little sneaky things. But now we realize that, and we realize that you can't go to the well too often on tax increases, because people do struggle with it. Particularly, think about some of our senior citizens that it's hard for them to make those payments sometime, and we feel that
because it ups house payments,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. And I know that, I know that matters to you. I'm bringing it up to just.
It does, and we realize that we've got a responsibility to keep those rates as low as we possibly can. On the other hand, we've got so many needs that are coming in that I get a lot of calls about the condition of roads, potholes and things like
I
that.
will say that. I'll go there too.
Yeah.
There are certain places, and like I said, I came from Davidson County,
Mm-hmm.
so there's only a couple roads there. Like they don't have to keep up much. But there are places I'm like, I don't want to go that way because
It's a little pothole right
there's
there.
a pothole.
Yeah.
So understanding that some of that taxes, that's infrastructure
Yes.
that we're talking about here, and not just for the now, but
Yeah,
for
the future. Yeah.
again looking forward.
Yeah.
So
We put so much more money in this year's budget. We got I think $9 million in there for paving roads and so on. But you know what? We got 1,000 miles of roads in Winston-Salem.
what?
1,000 miles. That's like driving from here to almost to Memphis. And do you think about if you had to pay all those together, might get down to your hometown.
Oh,
there.
my word.
Oh, we
That
would.
close to-
It's
But
only
it is a
about
lot
9.
better than where I'm from.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nightmare. A lot of things, infrastructure. It's like they start 20 years after,
You needed to.
and we needed it 20 years before, and it's really frustrating. But that is one thing that's very pleasing up here is to see a lot of that building going out. I don't have any complaints.
Well, I will say, like the 421, or I always call it Business 40, but Salem Parkway now.
Parkway, yeah.
I mean, that was huge renovation, and it got
Amazing.
done in under the time limit that
It was a 24-month project, and you finished it in 15 months.
was
That's great.
amazing, and it has helped so much
Yeah.
to get through. And what I love about Winston, in that kind of from a planning standpoint, or as someone who is driving in there, is there's so many ways to get to the same place that I don't ever feel like if there's traffic for 5 minutes, that's about all you're going to get. Because if you don't like it, you can just find another way around the city.
Take a right and
Yeah.
another different way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that about this particular city, and I don't like traffic.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was talking to Vi Lyles, the mayor of Charlotte, the other day, and she was just, I like her a lot. She was just commiserating the fact that they're growing so fast and they can't keep their infrastructure up to keep pace with it.
No, they can't.
Now, we're growing at a moderate rate. We grow about 1% a year to 10% over a decade, so we can sort of keep up with it. But we still are behind in fixing the roads.
What do you think the most important thing that you do in a day is? And this can be personal. It can be in your job. What do you think is the most important thing for you to be able to continue to run a city as large as Winston-Salem?
Yeah, I think it's keeping your heart in the right place. Excuse me, and making sure that you're doing everything that you can do to help the citizens and help the community grow. Because if we don't grow, then the citizens are the one who don't benefit from it. Our taxes would have to go up even more if we're not growing, creating tax base. And I think one primary role for a mayor is to continually scan the environment and to know what opportunities are coming down the road and what dangers are coming down the road, and sort of
Good
be ready for it. Just like a small business person, when they're putting together their business plan, they got to look at opportunities, threats to their business, and so on, so that their business plan takes all that into consideration. Because bankers always like to say, we hope for the best and plan for the worst. So
Correct. And so you don't own, you're mayor, but you also have other interest in let's put it. I mean, you're a businessman outside too of being mayor. Am I correct in saying that now, or is it all together?
Well, it's pretty, well, we've I've retired from the Winston-Salem Alliance back in February. We
I didn't
rolled that
know.
into the
Okay.
Greater Winston-Salem Inc. to doing that. But so for many years, I was obviously tied in with the business community,
Okay.
working that. So
So that's part of the reason that you've maybe made it so easy for small businesses to be in Winston-Salem, because you're
yeah, well, we know that 80% of our new jobs will come from small business startups and from existing business expansions. People get all excited about a new company we recruit here. That's the sexy thing, you get written up there, but it only makes up 20% of the new jobs that the community has.
really, wow, you're
Yeah.
schooling me.
Pay
Well-
attention, there'll be a pop quiz.
Yeah,
So
we'll
let's
go
talk
to
about-
lunch and you can.
Yeah.
I'll school you. And you come here.
So we've been talking about small business quite a bit, and really at our table, we're 6 months in now of doing this and having small business leaders sit at this table and having these conversations.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we haven't did a podcast about the government aspect of it yet. We had talked about doing that early on, but
Yes.
we wanted to get to a certain place. And now that this election's over and we've got that in our background, the government aspect of it is so important. And we've seen that as you expressed that to us today. And business people need to be involved in
Absolutely.
their government, need to be helpful to the leadership, because you're trying to help with all. I mean, this is a big animal to maneuver
Yeah.
with being a mayor and with a city and just a government position like this. You need somebody who's looking out for our best interest, and so even those business owners need to have that relationship.
Really do.
How do you
with
get involved with staying up on that and having that kind of relationship with your elected officials in the state? I mean, in the county that you're in. Like, what would you say is the most beneficial thing to be involved in if you're a small business and trying to grow in Winston-Salem? What would be the number one thing off the top of your head that you would do?
Well, get involved in the Greater Winston-Salem Inc. I'm not making a pitch for them.
No,
but-
I mean,
but
I'm
but
asking.
They're the advocate for the business community. They have a great relationship with Marco Winston, president. By the way, they were chosen as the #1 chamber of commerce in the whole country this past year. The
Really?
whole country. They
That's
were
huge,
competing with Phoenix, Arizona, and with the whole state of Oklahoma. And this just wasn't small chambers or whatever. It was the whole, any chamber, So it's pretty amazing. So they've got great programs for small businesses and get you involved. We as a city try to engage small business leaders when we're getting ready to do a change in some ordinance or some program or whatever. We'll reach out and to you and say, hey, if we do this, would this impact you? Would it help you? Would it hurt you? Or whatever, and try to get their input. And
Is that like something you would do by mail, or is that something that you would call? Like, how would people expect?
Most of it, I would say, would be phone calls and are setting up meetings. We're getting ready to do. We've got a new program for housing development.
Oh, cool.
We're just getting ready to put in place, hopefully, at the next meeting, which is the 18th. And we met with developers and builders before we kind of put in fine-tuned touches on there, and they liked the ideas that we came up with. And so when the staff came to us, that's the first question somebody asked, well, what about the builders? What about the developers? They like it. So if you get going in a direction without some input, then you're going to get slapped.
Slapped
Yeah.
really
Your
hard.
hand, I guess.
No, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to move a little bit from that and talk about the fact that you, in 2019, were named one of the 10 most fit mayors in the U.S. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
How do they even measure that?
Yeah, that's a good question. They look at how often I work out, what my eating habits. They were just real turned on with the fact that I do intermittent fasting, which I stop
Yeah.
eating at 8 at night and don't eat again until noon.
You've been doing that for years.
I have. I bet it's been 5-6 years
Yeah.
now, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of how many hours a week or minutes a week do you work out? What do you do? And you get into cardio and stuff like that. How high are you? I'm pretty high. How tall are you and what's your weight and all that sort of stuff. So it totally surprised me. It was Fitness Revolution magazine, I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting because it did pay homage to. I mean, first of all, you've always loved to exercise and you've always taken very good care of your health. But what a lot of people may not know is your love for travel and your love for hiking.
Yes, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about you've done some major hikes.
Well, I try to do 2 sections of the Appalachian Trail every year, one in the spring, one in the fall, and I do, somewhere between 50 and 60 miles at a time there. But that's like over like 4 days or something like that.
I don't care. That's a lot.
Somebody was asking me, said, "Are you going to be able to get the whole Appalachian Trail done?" I said, "Well, let's do the math." It's like a little over 2,000 miles on the Appalachian Trail. I've done about 550 now, I guess. This age, I don't think I got that many miles in me, but although I did see where a guy 82 years old did the whole trail in 1 year, so he
yeah,
was
we
something
need you still. You can't go off on that. But
Yeah.
that's what do you? I know you do that twice a year, and you don't normally take it. You do that alone, right?
I do it specifically alone because it's really a recharging, and I truly believe that there's an energy that's in the forest. I started to say woods, but I just read a book. Native Americans feel like if you call the forest the woods, it means somebody's cut down a tree and burned it for firewood or made a piece of furniture out of it, or whatever. So I've tried to be more sensitive to call it the forest or the trees.
Sorry, wood.
That's right. I bought a T-shirt not too long ago that says "Into the Trees." So,
But that is part of how you keep yourself grounded is you do take the time to say, hey, this is what I need. Because as you have mentioned, you're not naturally the belle of the ball. You don't want to be in this in the center of attention. You do that when you have to do that. But that's not inherently who you are. Yeah. So taking care of the Alan Joins, not just the mayor Alan Joins, but Alan Joins the person. I've watched that, and I've been very proud of that. You've not been afraid to say, "Hey, I have aspirations to visit this country or that country." Like you do it.
I have, I love traveling once I get there. But I went to Istanbul last when I go, like in the springtime last year, because I was kind of stressed during the primary election coming up. And I said, I need something to look forward to on the other side of the election. And I said, I always wanted to go to Istanbul. So I said, well, what the heck? Anyway, I went ahead and made reservations and got over there. And I said, why did it take me so long to get here? Because it's just an amazing, fascinating city. It was originally built in like 230 BC. And it's had so many different iterations. And it's the head of the Roman Empire for the western part of the empire and stuff. And
I would never know that.
Yeah, I'd forgotten it. At one time it was called Constantinople, named after Emperor Constantine.
That's right.
So it was a great trip, and it's you can learn so much, I think, to me, and particularly with a country bumpkin like myself,
But you're not. I mean, I know we've spent a lot of time talking about your travels, and it fascinates me.
Yeah.
There was an opportunity that we had to go to the Met in New York.
Yes.
And we went there. I was just there actually a couple of days ago
Were
again.
Had your girls with you?
Yes.
Oh, how fun.
Yes, I did. They didn't find it as fun as I do. I didn't appreciate
they will
that.
Later on.
Yeah, they did. Well, actually, Kennedy liked the French American section now that they have with all the provincial bedrooms and all of the, intricate work on the walls and on the, she'd grab my phone. I can probably tell you now. But it started out, I wanted to look at the art, and she's just like, hurt myself, so I was in a wheelchair
Oh, were you?
through, which, that's another thing. We need to talk to the New York City mayor
Uh-oh.
because they need to make this a little more wheelchair accessible up in New York City. So if you've got it in with that.
Well, if he's still mayor, because he's got indicted for.
Oh, I'm not political. I told you this.
That's good. No.
Yeah. So, yeah, she was just like pushing me by.
You didn't have any way to fight back.
No, I didn't have any way to fight back. And I said, stop it. I want to look at all of them. I really want to look at all of them and really feel the feelings and just, and that's part of something that you really had an impact in my life about. Yes, absolutely. 100%. And so I was able finally to get our friend who was with us to push me instead of Kennedy.
The right place.
Yeah, and I wanted to read it. I wanted to kind of reassess which artist was, my favorite at that point.
Yeah,
and
were you able to narrow it down? Or?
Yeah. So I like some of Monet, but some of it I don't like of his because it's convoluted.
It's kind of blends together.
Yes, it blends together. I like the sharpness. Is it Degas? Is that how you say it? Okay. I really liked his stuff. There was one of Van Gogh's, the flower one of Van Gogh's, that I really, really enjoyed. And then, oh my goodness, I forget
it's called daffodils or some other kind of flower. I forgot what.
Yeah, but I did appreciate it. It was so lifelike in the way that this has turned into something else, but it's really okay. But just to be able to go by and appreciate that, I want to say thank you because you're the first one that ever was like, let's look at this and check it out. And I never appreciated it as much as I do
thank you for saying that.
now. So anyways.
So with that, we need to talk about it. We've talked about business, how important that is. And we've talked about the nuts and bolts of government and operation of that. How important are the arts and culture in a city like Winston-Salem? Seems like that's an important thing.
It is.
And obviously it is to you. And talk about that just a little bit.
Well, we call ourselves the City of the Arts and Innovation, and we can do it, I think, legitimately because we had the first arts council in the country formed here in 1949, and then innovation, we have the innovation quarter, and we've got some of the most amazing research and development going on there. But the arts particularly play such a role when we're recruiting companies to be able to say we've got this culture that's here. If I always like to say that the arts are really the soul of the city.
So why is that important to these companies? There's a reason.
There is. They know that they've got to recruit employees here, and a lot of times young professionals or other professionals, and so they have to be able to say that within Winston-Salem, you can have great places to go out to dinner, and there's great art opportunities for you here, and it just makes it great for them.
Do they still do the gallery hop?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first Friday.
First Friday of the month.
Every month. So the Trade Street, all the galleries and that they have, they stay open later, and they serve, hors d'oeuvres or wine or something, and they just let you come in and hop through the galleries
See what's going on.
It is amazing, the arts that we do have.
It is
here.
pretty amazing.
Old Salem, we just had a podcast that's going to be released pretty soon. That was really fascinating.
Yeah,
having that conversation.
That's,
Ronalda, is that
Ronalda House?
Ronalda House.
Okay, so I'm still learning.
You need to go to that
This
one.
is not like South Louisiana with all the Cajun French names, Appaloosas and all these different names. Lafayette. My wife and my daughter. Baton Rouge. Wife and daughter, we went there a few weeks ago.
Oh, did you Ronalda House?
Yes, and I was amazed. I was amazed at the cards, and all the portraits in one of the rooms, and I was like, man, these guards with things in their ears, don't touch this or.
Yeah, it's the best, one of the best collections of American art in the country.
I was impressed. First time and I was like, wow. And I'm looking forward to go back.
We have so many little nuggets and places in our city and I've traveled a lot of places, but
Yes.
I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I really
I'm
wouldn't.
kind of like you. It's an amazing city. It grows on you and gets in your DNA a little bit.
It
enjoy it.
absolutely does.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you have other
I
questions?
want to know what's next for this guy.
I
See,
do too.
when before we
That's
started,
true.
I do want to say this. I'm impressed with, because I pulled pictures of you. I saw what your age was. She was yelling at me, "We're not going to talk about none of that." But yet she brings up one of the fittest mayors in the country. I am getting up in age, so one of the things I look at, I'm impressed with what I see. You're taking care of yourself. These are the important things, and you're running the city. That's impressive to me. I a lot of respect
Well, thank you for saying
for
that.
what you're doing, just with your own life and then leading. So it's great. Makes for a
And
great leader.
you made time for us.
Yeah, and you
glad
made time for us.
This is great when you're working with small businesses. That's my sweet spot there.
It really is. Well, okay, so for your constituents, what is if they want to say thank you,
Yes.
if they want to say I'm concerned, if whatever it may be, what is the best way for us to be vocal with our city?
I think probably the easiest way and gets to me directly is the email at allenj, ALLENJ, at cityofws.org. And I read all my emails. Sometimes I get a little behind, but I try to make sure I get them categorized. It's a lot of them, it's kind of not from citizens, but people trying to say stuff. You can get rid of those.
Yeah.
But then you can also, if it's something amazing or need quick action on, or want to set up a meeting, my secretary is Betty Clay. She's amazing. She does a great job. Matter of fact, she worked for 20 years for Maya Angelou.
What?
Yeah.
Do you know that Maya Angelou lived in Winston?
No.
You didn't?
No.
You know who she is?
No.
Oh,
Educate me.
oh, she is. She's passed a few years back, but she was a beautiful. She wrote poetry and books, and she was inspired. I mean,
Yeah, she did. She wrote the book "I Know Why a Caged Bird Sings," and taught that, and great poems. She had a poem about Phenomenal Woman, and she was in the movie Roots. You remember that series?
Yeah.
She played the grandmother in that, and so just an amazing woman.
Wow.
she was profound.
Yeah, that's a good word for
She
it.
was just profound. And I know my kids have been in one play that was totally about her life and her legacy. And she lived in Winston. I don't know how long she lived in Winston, but
Yeah, it was a good while, and she was best friends with Oprah Winfrey.
right.
And Oprah would throw a big birthday party for her here
Yeah.
every year.
Oh, cool.
So,
I mean, there's so much that we really do have to be grateful for where we live. So, anyway, I just again want to say from the bottom of my heart, number one, thank you for being here. But number two, thank you for being my friend.
oh, absolutely.
I remember there was a time, and I counted. We had talked and said, there's only a handful of people that you go through life with that you can continue to count as friends, and most of them are on one hand.
Oh, yeah.
And you said, and you'll always be on that one hand. And that's how I feel. Don't be crying. Okay? I love you so much, and you're my friend, and you've always taken every meeting. You've always just, no matter if we saw from a different angle, it didn't matter.
Right.
And so I just appreciate all that you do and all that you do for our city and for, hundreds of thousands. I don't even know how big Winston is.
254.
254. Well, I think you got almost 100,000 of those votes. Did I see that right? From this,
89.
Yeah, it was a lot.
80,000. There was just
89.
89.
well, the one was no. I had 5 because I had 3 new voters.
Yeah, we had a
this
lot of
year.
new voters
Yeah.
in our
That's
family.
great.
Yeah,
that's
we
great.
did. So anyway, thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
saying that. It's very, very kind. And to you, welcome. I know it's been a year, but glad to
Yeah,
have you here in the
it's been
community.
great, Mayor. Thank you for everything you do. I love people like you doing what you do, care about the people.
Thank you.
It's amazing, and it's been fun at this table.
It has.
Because
It has.
we've been able to experience
So
a lot of that.
with that, I'm gonna say, check out Mayor Dana will put it up. What email that he just said. And just know that he hears you, and that is one of an amazing things these days. And across party lines, it doesn't matter. We all want to succeed, and that's exactly what you want to see the city and beyond do, or you wouldn't collaborate with so many of our people in the triad. So also, we want to invite you to follow and like Legacy Podcast Studio on all of the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, all of those things. We have exciting things coming down the pike right now. We are growing, we are expanding. And talk about a return on investment. If you want to be sitting on the other side of this table, the content that's created and the level of production that we have here, it's pretty up there. I'm not going to lie.
It's great.
It's pretty great.
Yes.
So if you would like to be a part of that and, get in touch with us. Ask us what it takes to be on this side of the table, and we will happily talk with you. We would also welcome your questions and also your advice. If you have advice for somebody in small business, maybe we put that on here and say, hey, this came from our Facebook. Hey, this is great advice for small business. We want you involved because we will be right back involved with you. So with that, I say thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.